Thank you. If you all please rise and ask Representative Carson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All righty. We've got a couple of announcements, so let me get through that. And these are always quite enjoyable. I'd like to announce this evening that the New England Educational Media Association Hall of Fame elected Susan Ballard to the 2008 class. So congratulations, Sue. Now, do you get your picture on the cover of a magazine, and then we can have like bookends with you and Nate the Great on either side? I tell you, there's a lot going on with librarians around here lately. I'm telling you, huh?
Were there
I don't.
Were there any hanging chads involved?
I don't know. We could always ask for a recount, but I think. Well, congratulations, Sue. You once again make us very proud of you. Let's see. We've got Lisa Villani. Or Jim.
I'm not Lisa.
I can see that. I saw you come running up. I'm sorry.
Okay. Actually, Lisa's not here tonight. She's working.
Good for her.
But I do want to announce to the public and that Lisa Villani was the statewide runner-up in the French Oracle contest. And that's quite a contest that many of students in the state participate in. This is the first time that we have had somebody place in at least the 4 years that I have been at the high school. Kudos also to her teacher, Carol Camden, who was out this week for surgery, so she couldn't come tonight. So I have the honor of announcing that. Also, I will have the honor of introducing our math team coach, and the honor of introducing, and he'll introduce our state championship math team 2 years in a row. And Coach Wenger, if you can come up here and do a little announcement and take a little congratulations, that'd be great. You got it.
Well, actually, just today I received some information. Finally, the state results are here. I don't have enough copies for everyone, but I'll give you what I have. And
Great. Thanks.
share and take a look. And
How many copies?
unfortunately, the gentleman who was in charge was in an accident, so he was a little delayed in getting the results. But results are in. 8 out of 10 of our kids scored perfect or near perfect scores. It was truly amazing. They scored 377 out of possible 432 points. And with me tonight, unfortunately, they couldn't all be here. If you guys will come on up.
Don't be shy. Come on.
It's senior Christian Schenkelberg. Stephen Peters, sophomore Stephen Peters, Jenny Heffernan, senior Matt Gilzinger, and freshman Brian Eccles. So.
Absolutely.
It's very exciting. We're looking forward to New England's, which is at the end of this month, and then also Nationals, which is the end of May. So
Well, that's great.
A lot coming up in the near future.
That's great. We're very proud of you guys, especially from somebody who started failing math in 5th grade and it hasn't gotten a lot better. So I have a lot of respect for you guys. Is there any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Young?
How many freshmen on the team?
Well, we have about, I would have to guess 5 to 10, something like that.
And there's one freshman represented here tonight?
We have just one that could make it. The team consists of a group of 10, no more than 4 seniors, no more than, I believe it was 8 juniors and seniors. Our junior, we don't have a lot of juniors on the team this year, and so we ended up with some sophomores and even some freshmen this year.
So they limit the older students to keep from a competitive advantage?
I'm not sure exactly why, because I had quite a few seniors that I would have liked to have taken, but there was, unfortunately, there was not the opportunity to do that.
Of course, he's over there knowing I'm going to ask him a question. I was just wondering how you ended up as a freshman. What motivated you to join the team?
Well,
I know Brian's always enjoyed mathematics, and
Wow.
Was he one of the ones who came as an 8th grader with us? He had some 8th graders last year.
no, I don't think Brian was with us last year, but
You were last 8th graders.
yeah, we actually have 3 8th graders on the team this year. So.
Oh, okay, good.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, thanks.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and congratulations and good luck.
And I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank Mike for all his work with the students. He spends a great deal of time with them on the math, and I know the kids appreciate all his time and effort, and we certainly do too. And
Absolutely.
We really appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Congratulations, guys. That's really terrific. And next up, I'd like to invite Representative David Hess to come on up. And I know some of our own Londonderry Auburn contingency is here as well, so I don't know if you guys want to come up and speak, but feel free. And Representative Hess is here to discuss or talk to us this evening about the school adequacy funding and how important that is to us as we continue to lead the way in the state of New Hampshire under the tutelage of Mr. Young and Mr. Greenberg and NH Cafe. So, Representative Hess, thanks very much and welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and let me start off by saying that I'm pleased and honored that 2 of my fellow House members from Londonderry, Representative Sharon Packard, former chair of the Transportation Department, and our second assistant minority leader is here, as well as Representative Sharon Carson, who sits with me on the Education Committee and has for many, many years. I am here primarily to answer questions that you may have. Your superintendent and I have known each other for many years during this ongoing debate about education funding and state support of education. And while we don't always share the same perspectives on the various issues, I think we both recognize that we know a lot about the issue and can bring a lot of information to people of a neutral nature. It's fortunate, I think, that I was able to meet with you tonight rather than several weeks ago, because this very afternoon at about 2 o'clock, 5 hours ago, the House Committee on Education made 2 important and significant votes. First of all, the Education Committee voted 13-5 to recommend a bill to the full House which will be heard next Wednesday. It's House Bill 539. This is the education funding bill, the omnibus education funding bill that originated in the Senate. I'm sorry, Senate Bill 539. Originated in the Senate around February 15th, was amended by the Senate, and came over to the House. And since that's the game plan that is going to be before the House and will be the basis upon which any future changes are made, I thought I'd explain what that bill does in generic terms, what it does to you folks in specific terms, and then answer any questions that you may have. As you probably know, in the House of Representatives, when we have bills involving money, they almost always go to an initial, what we call a policy committee. And that was the track that this bill takes, because it deals with education policy as well as education funding. Education funding continues to be the largest single amount of money that is distributed by the state in any category. It will, under this bill, amount to $988 million. Of that sum, $363 million is the ubiquitous statewide property tax. But the remainder, which under the bill in its current form, results in $625 million in grants from the state to towns and cities across New Hampshire. The formula that was used to come up with the current funding mechanism is unlike every other formula we have used in the last decade. In the past, the legislature and the governor have developed formulas based upon outcomes, based upon student performance on certain standardized tests, and determined that if a school district met or exceeded certain standards, they got a certain amount of money, et cetera. The formula that is being proposed this year is an input-based formula, and by that I mean what the school study committee did, which is a study committee that sat from last August until February, did is they took a hypothetical school in light of the definition of an adequate education that the legislature passed last year, and said, what are the resources that this school would need in order to satisfy the definition of the criteria for an adequate education? The House Bill 927 last year, which defined an adequate education, defined it in terms of 9 specific curriculum areas: reading in English, math, science, world languages. I can give that to you in detail if you wish. That bill also specifically incorporated by reference over 30 pages of the standard minimum school standards in the state. So the definition of adequacy that we're working with now is a curriculum-based definition about the delivery of educational services in 9 subject matter areas. We then, we meaning the legislature and the committee, then went to the minimum standards for school approval and looked at those standards as guidelines and criteria or specific criteria for establishing an adequate education. The first thing that we did is to accept the school standards for class size, which are 25 pupils per teacher in grades K through 2, and 30 pupils per teacher in grades 3 through 12. Secondly, we looked at principal requirements and elements, and we concluded that with respect to principals, the standard for the state and the minimum standards was a single principal for the first 500 students of a school, and then a second principal or assistant principal for any additional students. We modified that standard slightly to provide for a principal for every 500 students in a school district, so that if you had 3,500 students, you would be eligible for seven principals. We then looked at other criteria that are required in the minimum standards, and I'll go over these briefly. I'll be happy to go into more detail if you want. We specifically made provision for guidance counselors, for library media specialists, for custodians, for a technological coordinator, and for a reading assistant. These are all positions that are required by the school standards here in New Hampshire, and not all of them have student-teacher suggested populations, but we decided that with respect to most of these, that the 500 to 1 student-teacher ratio was appropriate and adopted that criteria. We also added a technology specialist, which is not required in the minimum standards, but which was one of the curriculum requirements contained in the minimum standards, which we adopted in the definition of adequacy, and made provision for a technology advisor at a ratio of 1,200 students per advisor, which roughly breaks down into 1 advisor per average New Hampshire school district population. Added to those manpower issues were other provisions for providing basic fundamental materials and resources. We had a technology line item based upon $75 per pupil, and that assumes 1 computer for 4 pupils that would last for 4 years. There were other line items for teacher development, for facilities operation and maintenance, for transportation. And taking all of these standards, some of the latter figures were derived from the gross DOE 25 figures from across the state, and then dividing out by the total number of pupils in the state. The majority of the commission as well as the Senate and the House Education Committee, came up with a base cost. We now call it a universal cost. It's a euphemistic change, means the same thing as you're used to for base cost, of $3,450 per pupil. The numbers for the teaching positions and for the other staffing positions were arrived at as follows. As I'm sure you know, both the Department of Education in D.C. and the Department of Education in Concord recognize that a teacher with a bachelor's degree and a certificate derived currently from testing with no experience is a, quote, highly qualified teacher. That satisfies NCLB as well as state standards. The majority of the commission and the committee decided that that was not an appropriate standard, but that instead they wanted to use a teacher, a qualified teacher with 3 years of experience, which, as you undoubtedly know, is the cutoff date for tenure, teacher tenure. They also then decided to take the median statewide salary for those positions. In each one of the categories I just explained, and take the median statewide salary and calculate the costs of staffing schools across the country and in each district based upon that input formulation. That formed the basis for the calculation statewide of the universal cost or base cost per pupil, which was $3,450. In addition to that, in terms of defining an adequate education, the committee and commission and the Senate recognized 3 subpopulations of students which we know require additional resources in order to educate properly because they have less than average capabilities. Those are the 3 areas that have been traditionally used for at least the last 8 years in targeting populations and applying additional resources to them are students, special education students, students, I think the current lingua is English language learners, ELL, that floats around. ESL is the one I'm more familiar with, but people whose primary language is not English. And then children who come from disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds, which have been determined uniformly in studies across the nation, generally require greater resources than an average or a child from a typical household or from a wealthy household. Various levels of aid were ascribed to those 3 categories of special subpopulations. $675 was applied to an English language learner. That is based upon on-the-ground, real-life numbers from the 10 or so school districts which have significant concentrations of English language learners, by which I mean more than 50 ELL students in their school district. The second category of special education was also calculated using a formula based upon whether the students were in self-contained classrooms or were mainstream. I call them mainstream, stayed in a regular classroom but have special resources. That calculation was made, again, using standard median teacher incomes for teachers who qualified for SPED, and those figures were calculated. However, in the course of the process, it was brought to the Commission's attention that categorizing special education students in that fashion, number 1, may be in violation of IDEA, and number 2, actually created an incentive to put more students into self-contained classrooms rather than in with the regular student body, which of course is contrary to the philosophy of IDEA. So the Commission and the majorities of the Senate and the committee adopted a single blended special education add-on of approximately $1,880. The other provision for economically disadvantaged children has always been calculated in this state, as in almost every other state in the country, using populations of children who are eligible for free and reduced lunches. That standard is used as a surrogate for poverty-based additional compensation for the following reasons. Number one, it is calculated annually and therefore is available to the state as well as to you on an annual basis. The perhaps more accurate figures that might be used, such as median household income, et cetera, are only calculated on the decennial census. And consequently, were we to use that, this year that data would be 8 years old, and I'm sure you know from your demographics in Londonderry would be horribly out of date. So free and reduced lunch student populations have been almost universally used for calculating this additional aid. Historically, and almost everywhere else in the country, to my knowledge, this aid has been distributed solely based upon the populations of students on free and reduced lunch. The formula that has passed the Senate and is being sent to the House floor today takes a dramatically different approach to this. Instead of sending this additional aid just based upon the students on free and reduced lunch, the current formula pushes that aid to every pupil in the school where certain percentages of concentration are met. Namely, if the concentration of free and reduced students is between 12 and 25% of the total school population, they get $800 and change. I think it's $831 and change. If the population is between 25 and 50, they get $1662. If the population is between 26 and 48% of the total population, they get 3/4 of that figure, which is around $2,600. And then if their student population of free and reduced people exceeds 48% of the total school, they get a full 3,540 or 100% more than they would get for just that population of of free and reduced students. So those are the factors that were built into this universal cost and the definition of adequacy. It consists of the base cost, which every school district gets for every pupil they have signed up, and that that includes add-ons in each of those three categories that I described to you based upon whether or not your schools and school district fit within the category. After the bill was introduced in the Senate, the majority party of the Senate, the Democrats in the Senate, realized that this bill did a number of things they really didn't want to have done. Okay, number one, it recreates donor towns to the tune of 37 donor towns that will be looked to send almost $16 million into the state for redistribution to other school districts. If you've been involved in this at all, you will remember that the first half of the last decade was devoted to a fight between donor towns and the state over this system, which led to at least 3 lawsuits to my recollection. That's factor number one. Factor number two, people realized when they looked at the numbers, which I suggested they should have started doing back in August rather than on February 20th, they realized, well, lo and behold, the Claremonts of the state, Claremont, Pittsfield, Franklin, Allenstown, the plaintiffs of the state were getting a heck of a lot less money in this formula than they are getting currently. And thirdly, they realized that a lot of towns, that a lot of people consider to be relatively wealthy in per capita or in family household income were getting a lot more money under this formula than they had been getting. Towns such as Amherst, Bedford, Hollis. So what the Senate did in the first instance was to develop a new formula called fiscal capacity aid, to which they assigned $48 million. Amazingly, fiscal capacity aid brought up all of these low-income, so-called property poor towns, and now they're getting more money under this formula than they are getting this year. It then went to Senate Finance Committee, and many senators, including yours, pointed out that there were quite a number of what I will call basically working-class lunch pail towns, particularly in the southern tier, that were getting whacked pretty seriously for no apparent reason other than that's what the formula came out with. I think you folks are getting hit by $750,000 drop in appropriations over what you're getting this year. Your next door neighbor, Derry, is getting clobbered with a $7.5 million reduction in grants. It's inexplicable to most people, but as a result of that problem, and that problem is widely shared. There are in excess, I think, of 45 to 50 towns that are losing money under this formula compared to what they're getting this year. The Senate made, and I'll editorialize here, a half-hearted, half-baked attempt to ameliorate that situation by appropriating an additional $9 million, but imposing criteria on it such that it only apply to towns which lost more than 15% of their funds under the formula, and then if they lost more than 15%, it only reimbursed them for half of that loss in the first year and a quarter of that loss in the second year. Londonderry did not qualify for that aid. Derry did, so Derry still is down $3.75 million. You folks are still looking at a reduction of $750,000 over what you're getting at the current year. That was the state of the bill as it came to the House. In the House Education Committee today, in the erudite wisdom of the majority of the committee, of which I am not a member, I'm a member of the minority this year. My political designation is GOP, not DEM. The House Education Committee, pretty much along party lines, voted an additional $1.7 million in additional free and reduced aid so that a town receives some aid for the first free and reduced child that it has in its precinct. Now, I'm sure that's going to add a little something to your bottom line, maybe $5,000, maybe more, maybe less. It isn't going to do anything to impact your situation. The bill, as I passed the House Committee, Education Committee today on a 13-5 vote, which indicates to me that it has a very strong likelihood of passing the floor of the House with House leadership support. It then goes to Finance. In Finance, it's an open book for the simple reason that this bill carries an appropriation that is $100 million higher than current state check writing to school districts across the state. Now, putting that in context, the current estimate is that the state budget for this biennium, of which we only have 15 months left, the deficit is in the range of $225 million. So we start out next January, $225 million in the hole. They want to, and this adds another $100 million to that. So I don't know what's going to happen in Finance, but I have a very good idea they're going to take a tough look at the numbers and change the numbers. Does that mean the situation for Londonderry and Derry is going to be different? I doubt it. I doubt it, because it's taken 8 months to come up with this formula by the majority, and you can't turn these things around in 24 or 48 hours. But that's the situation that you currently face, that we currently face. I suspect there will be proposals submitted as an alternative to this formula in Finance to remedy some of what many of us feel are the unfortunate consequences and perhaps unintended consequences of this bill. But it remains to be seen what they are, and it remains to be seen what is going to be done with them. So that, in a brief nutshell, is Education Funding 101. And I'll be happy to answer any questions or to go into more specific details if you wish to.
John, you got? No. Steve?
What are you going to say? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
just regardless, the whole process is going to be $3,400. You got X number of dollars to spend. You can call it whatever you want, dice it and slice it. It always comes back to the same number because that's how much money you have to spend. And the reality is it takes significantly more money than that to educate a child. So, I mean, what are you going to say?
I would assume the legislature is going to get rid of tenure so you can fire all teachers over 3 years. I mean,
No, we leave that to local control.
I figured you would. I guess I look at it, and It looks like the Johnny Carson card show. The answer is, how do I get there? And I apologize, it's not the Democrats or the Republicans, it's both of them, because both of them had a chance to fix this for the last 15 years, and they failed to work on this. I appreciate the 1% of money they put in for the technology. Sue, what was the number we came up in the technology committee if we listened to the states? It was some huge number. It was a tremendous number.
I remember. We did analysis based on what the state would require us to do under what their technology plan was, and I think we estimated rough figures $1 million more than we were spending at this point to comply with what the state was asking for as far as technology was concerned. And that covered everything from hardware to software to technicians to IT people to servers, the whole bit. I remember that. We did that, a couple of years ago.
And Ben is right. I mean, it is what it is. The legislature can't figure this one out of a paper bag if one end was open. I mean, they really just, they just don't understand, they just don't understand how to do it, what to do, or call it what it is.
That, you're entitled to your opinion, and I certainly respect that. I would simply say in response that there are only 3 pockets that you can get the amount of money that you're talking about in terms of funding education. Property tax, income tax, and sales tax. The people of New Hampshire have spoken consistently and repeatedly and entirely the same line, 60-40, every time this issue has been on the ballot. They don't want an income tax and they don't want a sales tax.
So, I understand that, but someone explained to me how a town like Derry, in 1 year, could change the monies by $7.2 million. I mean, there's the poster child to show you how wrong it is. I mean, you could talk $500,000, something like this, and we can argue about it. Whoever's in power gets the money for their towns. But $7.2 million, I don't know if there's any other towns around. That means the first formula was so wrong, or their per capita has gone up so much. So that shows you the illogic of what's happening up there. When a town like Derry, that hasn't changed a whole bunch over the last 4 years, has been devastated by this number. And I don't know if you mentioned Derry at 7.2, which I find
7.5.
astronomical. What was their original number? 24, 25? So they went down almost a third.
Yes,
Probably,
I think that's
yeah.
the approximate percentage. I haven't looked at that recently.
So I just think someone up there looking at that, does it pass the gut check? And someone has to look at that and say, I don't think so.
Agreed.
Thanks, Ron. Steve?
I do have some questions, but before I get to that, I find it very interesting. I'm going to jump to the last item that the court mandated. And that last item is that the state make this easily understandable so that the average man on the street can understand that they met their obligation. We have a math team that has won 2 years in a row the math contest here in the state. I was watching them during your presentation, not to pass judgment on your presentation, but they were completely confused and puzzled and exited this room 3 to 4 minutes ago just before you finished. I have a feeling if the math team that's the best in the state 2 years in a row can't understand this, that the average man on the street will not be able to understand it either. It's pretty simple. We spend about $8,000 to educate a student. The state has defined what an adequate education is, and it's determined that that is, or will cost, $3,400. Frankly, it appears to me that Senate Bill 539 has simply institutionalized the process of starting on the right-hand side of the spreadsheet, knowing how much money you have, and working its way to the left-hand side of the spreadsheet. Do you think that Senate Bill 539 is constitutional?
Yes.
Did you think that House Bill 616 was constitutional?
No.
And I'm sorry to put you on the spot because we haven't never spoken before. Then why did you vote yes for 616?
Because I didn't know for sure that that was going to be the way the Supreme Court was going to come down.
Okay.
And the arguments were made justifying the formula as being used. As a matter of fact, the basic elements of 616 were the subject of a Attorney General's letter in 2004 by then Peter Heed. And while Peter, General Heed, I'll call him, pointed out weaknesses that he saw in the legislation, which he thought made it problematic, he did not come out and flatly say this is unconstitutional.
Right. And we begged the General Court, the Senate, and the Governor to ask the Supreme Court for their preliminary judgment on 616, and we were turned down at every corner. Instead, we in our 18-member communities spent $150,000, $160,000 to determine that 616 was unconstitutional. As it relates to School Funding 101, some further information on the donor towns. You did indicate that there were 3 lawsuits that occurred with the donor towns. My understanding is those lawsuits were either dropped or were not won in the cases that relate to donor towns.
They were lost at the Supreme Court level. I'm not going to say specifically 3. I remember a handful. I remember at least 2, and I think there was a third one. But
There were,
none that were successful.
I think there were 2 to 3, and they were either lost or they dropped them and didn't continue. Again, frankly, the funding opportunities that you gave, state property tax, state sales tax, and income tax, there are other options that are available that no one has looked at. But regardless, that's not our issue. Our issue is simply that the state provide adequate funding of education for every child. And I'm sorry to the citizens of Londonderry that are out there and that will see this rerun 100 times. My concern is not for just the citizens and just the students in Londonderry. My concern is, as president of NH Cafe, is for the citizens and the students throughout the entire state. And I think that that's where people need to be focused, and that's where the General Court needs to be focused, is providing adequate funding to all of those students. And then providing funding on top of that for students that need some more help.
Having been the founder of Cafe, I think you should also ask Bill Chapman what his opinion is of the constitutionality of this, if you haven't already.
John?
I'm not sure, while I certainly endorse the spirit of what Mr. Young said, I'm not sure I agree with one of the premises. I do think that the issue of taxation is an issue for us, and something that we should be concerned about as representatives of the school taxpayers in Londonderry. And because of that, I think that your premise might be incorrect too, that you said that whenever it's been put to the people, there have been 60-40 margins against broad-based taxes. May be true, but times may also be changing. I'm not saying we need an income tax or a sales tax or anything like that. I am saying that the more people I see being priced out of their homes because of tax issues in town taxation and school taxation and county taxation and all the others, the more I'm seeing a consensus growing that taxation has to at least have some connection to the taxpayer's present ability to pay, not necessarily the ability that their grandparents had when they bought the homestead that the taxpayer now lives in. I think that premise is changing. But that being said, I listened as carefully as I could to the outline of the calculations, and somewhere in there I decided that I was going to have to wait for it to come out in paperback. But in the meantime, I'm left with one thought. The state says an adequate education costs somewhere around $3,500 in round numbers. In Londonderry, we pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,500 per student. And the last I looked, we were either median or a little bit below it. So, where can we cut $5,000 per student and deliver an adequate education?
That, first of all, I believe the debate has to be focused in on the fact that we're dealing with a term of art that the Supreme Court has created of an adequate education. This formula, not in defense of it, but in explanation, this formula takes the minimum state school standards and applies far higher criteria in several areas than those standards require. The criteria for education adequacy under this formula was not created by the legislature out of whole cloth. It was done using the state standards, using their minimum school sizes, their criteria for teacher
All right.
qualification, et cetera. So your argument is with the State Board of Education.
No, we can come at it from...
How did they come up with these standards for an adequate education? That's number one. Number two, when you say you spend about $8,500 per pupil in Londonderry for a student, that, I assume, consists of your entire budget for SPED and everybody else. If you were to apply the same factors to this and look at the entire state on a per pupil basis, this formula basically spends $5,000 per pupil across the board. So, looking at it from your perspective, if it's 5/8, then that state aid on an average, you're not getting it, but on an average is over 50% of the total cost of money that you're spending for education.
Okay, first, I don't agree that my argument is with the State Board of Education, because while they may have promulgated the standards, it fell to the legislature to price them out. So if the legislature is not providing adequate funding to price out what the State Board of Education says is minimum required standards, then my argument isn't with the State Board of Education, it's with the legislature. But if we want, we can take it from the opposite perspective. I'll grant you the $5,000 number. We still spend in the neighborhood of $8,500. Could the legislature please show me the $3,000 per student extravagance in Londonderry school budget?
I'm not familiar with your school budget.
We can get you a copy.
No,
It would probably be as helpful to me as this description was to you.
Thank you.
That's true. Thanks, John. Yep, Ron?
David, first of all, I appreciate you coming here, and it's a hot seat, and I appreciate that.
I don't mind hot seats. I used to be a lawyer in my old
One of the things I thought, as you spoke about the formula, how it's reasonable and all that, one of the basic premises of the formula, which I don't think is reasonable, is the fact is they use a 3-year teacher. I believe that a reasonable person would have used what is the state average for a teacher. And that would have changed the number significantly, because most budget is 85% of the cost is personnel, and that's the first personnel. And I think that, we're talking about maybe 34,000 for a third-year teacher, maybe 35,000 if it's there. If you went to an average salary in the state, I bet you it's 45, 50, somewhere in that range.
I think the three-year experienced teacher with 33% benefits, which were included, again, this is the majority
Right.
formula, not mine,
Right. I understand that.
came out to about $45,000 per teacher.
Yeah, but if I take the 50-year teacher with 33% benefits, I'm in this.
55.
The cost is up there.
Right.
So I think that's the fallacy of the formula, is what you're putting in for the major component of the educational process is the teaching component of it.
Thanks, Ron. Ben?
Questionably, staffing makes up 60-70% of the cost, or maybe even more of the cost of
Yeah,
education.
it's
Yes.
more like 80.
With benefits.
Yes.
Ben?
We appreciate your taking the time to come down here, and irrespective of how the state legislature redivides the $900 million or $800 million,
It's
You know,
only
as a
not-
school board member, I mean, I believe it's our responsibility to ensure that our children have those educational opportunities that will prepare them for life. And, you know, I had a couple of years' experience up in the legislature also on Ways and Means. And one of the things that became very apparent to me from that experience is that, especially in New Hampshire, our economy is based more on knowledge than it is on manufacturing jobs, blue-collar manufacturing jobs, contract manufacturing. Those jobs are gone, and they're not coming back, regardless of what we say. They've moved overseas. And the future in this part of the country is based upon knowledge, information, and as school board members, it's, you know, our responsibility to do what we can to prepare our students for college and for work here. And so, you know, as we determine what those opportunities should be, we ask for the money from local taxpayers, and, you know, so far to date, they've been very approving of what we've asked for, and we've been able to create opportunities, and I think we've been able to show excellent results over time. So, you know, we appreciate what you're doing and what you're trying to do, but the end result is that from a policy perspective, you know, Londonderry does what it believes can do for its community. I think it's unfortunate probably that not every community across the state can offer their children the same opportunities that we're able to offer our children here. And from a statewide perspective, that's the policy issue I would think that we would grapple with at the state side. Is how can everybody have an equal shot at the apple? You know, our job is to make sure that our kids get an equal shot at the apple, and we'll do what we need to do. And for those communities that are not as fortunate, I think from a state perspective, you have to say, what should we be doing to help them? So.
You're absolutely correct, and I think you share those goals and aspirations with every other school board member and every other school board in the state. I don't think there's anything unique in that, and certainly various school districts around the state have various things that they can point to with pride as being accomplished within the constraints that you face as in terms of raising money at the local level, raising local taxes. The students, your math students here are an excellent indication of a small segment of that. Another thing that came up recently that you should all be proud of is the fact that Londonderry was recognized to have one of, if not the best, dropout rates across the state for a variety of innovative programs that were implemented by yourselves and your superintendents and your staff at relatively nominal cost and expense. And there are some of us in the legislature last year and the year before who urged that rather than the state automatically increase the dropout rate age to 18 and then figure out how they were going to what they were going to do with the kids for the 2 years that they would otherwise drop out, that the state should take programs pilot programs that have been proven successful, like what you've been doing here, and adopt those programs or implement those programs first before you compel kids who really don't want to stay in school to stay in school longer. But again, those are two strengths that I have personally experienced and seen you have here in Londonderry. I'm sure my hometown of Hooksett has some strengths, and you're right. The thrust of the Supreme Court decisions, the early Supreme Court decisions in Claremont, was to level the playing field between the property poor towns and the wealthy towns, so that there would be equal fiscal capacity across the state, so that a child was not penalized in their educational opportunities based upon geographically where their parents live. You know, legislation has been making progress to that. I hear what you're talking about. It's not enough. It's not far enough. I will like to say one thing in defense of our efforts. Education, state aid to education in 1998 was $57 million total. Under this bill, it will be $637 million. That's a $500 million increase in 10 years. Now, I hear the argument, it's not enough, but in a state with a budget of only $2 billion a year, that's a giant move. And the overwhelming majority of that burden, financial burden, was placed on the businesses in this state through the increase in the business profits tax and the business enterprise tax.
have
Why don't you quote that rate so people know what businesses pay on their business
I haven't
profits
been on
tax?
Ways and Means for 6 years, so I'm not sure. I think it's 8.5 or 8.25. Sherm, do you know?
I think that's correct.
Right,
For business profits tax, which is among the highest in the country.
country.
And then the BET, which is a very interesting regressive tax, is it's a tax, for those of you who don't know, it's a tax on salaries, on debt, and there's a third item,
Dividends?
dividends, regardless of whether you're profitable or not. And that rate is currently at 0.75%. That's sort of the fallback. If you don't have any profit, you still pay the BET.
Before you go, Nate, because I would like you to wrap up. First of all, I absolutely appreciate you coming. We had 3 of our own reps who voted voted for House Bill 616, and it won by 3 votes. So we certainly had it within our own community to control that. I don't need to berate you for your vote on that. You approached us and wanted to come to talk with us. And
I offered to. In conversations with your superintendent, I said, if you want any information, or if you want someone to come down, I'd be happy to come down.
And I'd just like you to share with the community and the press why that interested you so much, why you wanted to come and to talk with us.
Well, I think it's very important that local school boards have direct give and take with those of us who have been involved in this issue in Concord for a long time. I have been to numerous school boards around the state. I have been to Kingston, I've been to Merrimack, I have been to Hooksett, I have been over in the Seacoast, I've been down to Hollis, I've been, I don't remember, I probably have spoken to 24 school boards over the last 6 or 8 years about, what was then on the plate. And it's always something different. And one of the things those of us who have been involved in this for so long have learned that there is no solution to education funding in this state. Our turnover in Concord is about 25% every session. So we have 100 new legislators every 2 years. Of those 100 legislators, at least 25 think they have a better idea to solve the education issue than the 400 who were there the previous year or the 4,000 who have been there for the last 10 years. So I can only tell you, and I regret that I am telling you this for the reasons that you said, because it creates so much unpredictability, is that you will see new legislation changing the formula for education funding and changing the total dollars every year for as long as you are alive, as long as I am alive, and as long as the state of New Hampshire exists, unless the Supreme Court opinion is changed. That's going to be a fact of life. And it's, as I said on New Hampshire Outlook about 3 months ago, that's a legacy that we are leaving to our children and successor generations in the state of New Hampshire. There is no solution because somebody always thinks they have a better idea down the pike.
And not only that, they do it about 8 months after our citizens vote on the budget, too. So-
Well, this one, with all due respect and giving justice its due, in this round, the democratically controlled general court and the governor's office decided, no, this is going to be prospective only. So this new funding doesn't come in until a year from July 1st, okay? Now, that gives us 9 months to change, 15 months to change it before
Right.
it becomes effective.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
It's not over till it's
I'm saying
over.
that facetiously, but also with a certain degree of seriousness, because, it's the old Will Rogers statement, Congress is in session, watch out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually, it's sad that we don't have the predictability. If we just had that predictability, 24% of our community goes to our school system. I mean, we just have, many communities look on us as rich, but we are extremely student-rich, and it's very difficult to take care of them when we can't predict
Well,
what we're going to get next.
some of us feel very strongly that predictability and the consistency and historical factors that have been at play should be modified slightly as circumstances change or as new people come to vote in the House. But they shouldn't be dramatic alterations which drastically change the topography and the geography simply because it's a different formula and it works in a different way.
Thanks, Representative Hessen. The one thing that we all sit here, and I want to understand, you've reference back and forth to majority and minority. It don't matter to me. I don't care. Doesn't matter if it's a Democrat issue or it's a Republican issue. I care about the 5,600 kids who go through our doors and the millions of kids or hundreds of thousands of kids in the state of New Hampshire. Still think I'm in New York. That's what my concern is. So, you know, to defend one or criticize another doesn't matter to me. And, you know, Sharon knows that. Sherm knows that. I'm more concerned about how we're going to educate our kids and what we're going to do to get them forward. And with that, Mr. Greenberg, did you have something you wanted to say?
Just a couple of quick comments. One, I want to thank Representative Hess.
Yes,
for coming.
absolutely.
We've had numerous discussions, sometimes in a formal and sometimes in an informal way, and we haven't always agreed, but it's always been a very respectful discourse. And a couple of comments regarding just general framework comments. Representative Hess is correct in that since '98, there has been significantly more money put in by the state for education. However, it still only represents a third of what is actually being spent on education in the state. So if you look at that in comparison, the 3,400 does represent about a third of what the average per pupil cost is across the state. So that's one issue. And I appreciated what Representative Hess said. You take out the 363 in statewide property tax because in essence the statewide property tax really is just a local tax. You're taking money from your left pocket and putting it in your right. There's no difference.
Except in the donor towns.
Yeah, right. The next point I want to make, in the formula where they used a 25-to-1 or 30-to-1 ratio depending on, when I testified, I raised issues with the numbers that were being used, but I think it becomes more compounded at the high school level. Just simple math. If you have a 600 pupil high school and you use the 30-to-1 ratio, there's no way that you can staff a 600 pupil high school with 20 teachers and meet the 45 credit requirement. It's just an impossibility. So in that sense, the math, particularly at the high school level, and I would submit to you even at the middle school level, doesn't work. And I think the standards, and I understand what the state did, the standards say 25 or fewer. In my testimony, I said, and realistically, if you look around the state, the student-teacher ratio is lower than that, 25-to-1, and is particularly compounded with smaller schools where you don't have it. So when you look at the ratios, and did raise some issue about the amounts of money that were allocated for the portions within there. I think that's really one of the significant issues.
Can I respond to the teacher-student ratio, because I didn't say one thing which is in this formula. In addition to the 25 and 30-to-1 ratio, the formula also provides an additional 20% more teachers for specialty instruction in art, gym,
Right.
music, things of that sort. So I don't know what 100, if you take that 20% more, you're probably down to 25 would probably be down to about 20, and 30 would be down to about 23 or 24. Now, I've seen recent stats in one of the national journals that I think the New Hampshire average student-teacher ratio across the state is just under 16, which places it quite high in national rankings. I mean, we're not an average state when it comes to student-teacher ratings, as we are in almost any other category in education measurements. But
That's correct, and I think that's a factor of the size of many of the schools in the state. When you look at 700 pupil high schools or elementary schools that have 300 or 400, you look at the percentage of smaller schools. The larger school you have, obviously, you have more economy of scale. But I think the 16-to-1 ratio is reflective of the fact that we have so many schools that are small schools within the state as a result of that. This is a philosophical issue. With the state identifying and then costing out what they consider to be adequacy, an ongoing concern has always been what the state then mandates us to do and the state then does not fund. So what you have is a compounding factor where you've got, this is just my perspective, an underestimation of the cost of what has been defined as adequacy, while simultaneously the state then is imposing, if you want to call it that, or passing additional laws and mandates that are then not funded, and the schools are then obligated to comply with it. So you have a situation where about a third of the total cost of education is being provided by the state. Yet, I believe if we did a real legitimate analysis of what the state requires the schools to do, and I understand, the difference between the two, that cost probably comes closer to $6,000 or $7,000 if you costed it out as opposed to the $3,400. So, from an administrator's perspective, and forget the administrator, from an educator's perspective, the issue is we've got what I would consider to be lower funding than what should be appropriate, and then simultaneously, each legislative session, we wind up with additional requirements that either have a direct or indirect cost that impact the schools at the local level. And that's a continuing, ongoing concern. And sometimes it's not the legislature that does it. We get it through the rules process, as you well know. And there's very little appeal, if any, regarding that. And I'm not saying whether it's good or the new rules are good, bad, or indifferent. The pure fact of the matter is that it does have a cost impact, direct or indirect. And that, to a degree, I think, philosophically should be something that the state picks up. So, my 2 cents worth.
Thanks, Nate. Representative Hess, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you for
And
having me.
Representative Carson, thank you. Representative Packard.
Penumbra of light on the subject, although probably not as a sharp laser beam as you.
Well,
Appreciate all
just-
the years of effort that you've done
Right.
on this. I've seen your name in the paper, and I've read a lot of your
Don't
stuff
believe
over the
everything you read.
But it's been quite a bit long time that you've been fighting this educational battle. Thank you so much for all your efforts.
Microphone.
Everybody deserves to be appreciated.
And I do want to say, along with Representative Hess, Sharon's here, and Sherman's here, every time I've gone up to Concord or had conversations, they have been open, they have been gracious, they've been supportive. We may not have always agreed on everything, but they have always been more than willing to listen to what our arguments have been, and that's greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much. This, before, go ahead. What?
Chairman?
Yeah, I was just-
No? All set?
I was just going to ask if you guys are good?
I think David did a really great job of outlining what we heard today. I would agree that it is very confusing.
Yeah.
David did such a great job.
It's not so much for us, Sharon, it's for the people at home who just hear this little tiny
Sure.
voice in the background and can't figure out what they're saying.
I would definitely agree with David. This is a very complicated education funding formula. It is very difficult to try and follow. It is very difficult at times to understand the educational philosophy behind what's trying to be accomplished here. And so at this point, we don't know what's going to happen. It will go to the House, the amendments that were changed today, and then it'll go to Finance, where they'll look at the money situation, because quite frankly, we don't have the money to pay for this. So that is really the overarching question, is how are we going to make up this money? Where's it going to come from? And as David said, we added additional monies today. And quite frankly, I can't answer that question, because ultimately it will come from the taxpayers if it passes, but we don't have the money on hand to pay for this, so that means increase in taxes, and that means an increase in the local property tax to pay for it, unless an alternative measure is found. And I don't believe there's one on the table at this point in time.
Just
Thanks,
for our
yep.
viewing audience too.
Yes.
The monies that we're talking about are not fiscal year 9 monies. We're talking fiscal year
Right.
10. So the budget that was passed and what we anticipated for revenues is what the school board had
Yes.
told people publicly.
Right.
So it's the next budget cycle.
Yes.
So we don't want people to think
Well,
that.
it's, in a way, it breaks with tradition, because we've never really tied the hands of another legislature to fund a particular program. Usually, there's money to get it started, and then as it goes on, it gets funded. But in this case, it's a little bit different. We're going to start this program knowing very well the money's not there, and look to a future legislature to come up with a way to fund it. I don't agree. I don't think that's a good policy. But again, that's just my opinion. And by the way, I believe this is skirting very closely to being unconstitutional. I had that argument with a number of members of the committee, and I don't know if this will end up in court, if someone's going to challenge it.
I think it'll end up in court.
I agree. I mean, I'm trying to, you always want to say you don't want to go to court, but I think it will be challenged in court. The donor communities were their representative was very, very angry over the reinstitution of the donor towns. Plus, Governor Lynch has been very adamant that he does not support donor towns. He does not want to reinstitute them. So at this point, it's just going to be interesting to watch what happens from now until the end of the year. Unfortunately for our schools and the folks that work in our schools and the folks that run our schools, you know as much as we do. And in a way, it's very difficult. I look at you as corporate officers. You run the business, and it's very hard to run your business when you don't know what you're dealing with. So again, to thank all of you for hanging in there with the legislature while we're trying to work through this problem. But I agree with David, I do not believe that there's any resolution in sight. I think this is just going to be an ongoing issue.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
Representative Carson. Appreciate it. And with that, we can move on down.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to
Oh, yeah,
accept the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, Mary.
You had a
And,
retirement.
yep, in there, we have a retirement that Mr. Robinson will bring us up to date on.
Maura Vogel is leaving South School. She has shared her talents and dedication with the school district for the past 23 years. She is a master teacher whose greatest asset lies in her ability to provide her students with an encouraging, safe, and productive learning environment. Not only is her classroom environment safe and comfortable, it is also very active and engaging. At any point during the day, one may walk into her classroom to see a Congo line reciting subtraction facts, or children lying on the floor cycling their feet like riding a bike and laughing. And then the next moment, they will be deep in thought, discussion, or group activity. Maura's own leadership in promoting the PBIS program has contributed greatly to the success of the program at South School. She has served on numerous school and district committees. She is famous for her candidness and her reasoned responses to some unreasonable situations. Her retirement will definitely leave a void in the hearts of South School staff members. However, the lasting impression she has left with her students will remain with them for many years to come. She has touched the lives of hundreds of children who will never forget the magic of Mrs. Vogel.
Thank you, and we wish Maura all the best in her retirement as she moves ahead. Perhaps had I been in her math class doing the conga, I'd probably be a lot better at it than I am now. I'd be able to add and subtract without taking my shoes off. Next meetings. Yes, it's good to know that, and they keep me. That's why we have computers to do all those kind of things. Our next meetings are April the 22nd, May the 6th, and May the 20th, here in this room. So, be there or be square. And moving right along, let's go to the committee reports. Our student representative, Ms. Detweiler.
I love hearing those debates. They're fun.
Unlike our
They're
previous
interesting.
chairs. Gentlemen.
April 24th, it's a Thursday, is Mr. LHS. I'm really looking forward to it. Last year was really entertaining. It's held by the Lancer Spirit, the school newspaper. And Lynn Della Grata is putting together the Queen's Closet for the second year. It's collecting prom dresses and any formal wear to donate to girls in the Londonderry area who would love to go to prom and have that experience but can't afford to buy the dress and all of the jewelry and accessories to go along with it. So she is, with Mr. Salidas, collecting formal wear, jewelry, purses, shoes, in the House 2 office at the high school, if anybody has anything laying around. And she's doing a great job with that. Student Council is applying to the New Hampshire Association of Student Councils to become an honor council. We've received the award for as long as I've been in Student Council annually. And the Future Business Leaders of America held a competition, and some of our business students went. And Londonderry took first, second, and third in accounting, and we also won a bunch of other awards, and they did an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And Mrs. Ballard, can you just get a blurb about the, thank you. I don't even have to mention it anymore. Mrs. Slozak.
Good evening. Elementary students are in the midst of Iowa testing, and they've all been working very hard. Fourth and fifth grade students at North School and Matthew Thornton began enrichment clusters last week, and those will continue for the next 3 weeks, ending just before vacation. The cast and crew of South School's production of The Wizard of Oz are hard at work putting the final touches on their show. They would like to invite the administrators and school board members to come and enjoy Dorothy, Toto, the Tin Man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow as they travel to Oz to find their home, heart, courage, and brain. The show will be presented Thursday and Friday, April 17th and 18th at 7 p.m. 2 DI teams will be moving on to the global competition. Team members Benji Champa, Robbie Feinberg, Mickey Jang, Andy Lee, Justin O'Connor, with manager Bill O'Connor and assistant manager Steve Lee are one of the teams. And I believe that team has been together since they were at Matthew Thornton, so they've been working together for a number of years. And the second team includes Becca Forestieri, Tony Lamont, Chris Lasaki, Clarice Melanson, Brandon Spera, Hillary Whitehead, and the manager is Eric Melanson. So congratulations to them. The Ferrara team from LHS LMS was a third place award winner at the state level. And the Renaissance Award is given for outstanding skill in the areas of engineering, design, or performance, and was awarded to the Ferrara team. And those team members include Bryce Broadhurst, Jenna Caputo, Anthony Ferrara, Leah Ferrara, Devin Ingersoll, and manager Carla Ferrara. LMS teachers, Ginny Smith and Bill McCarthy report that the 7th grade Cyclone team recently raised $800 for the Friends of Animals Manchester Animal Shelter during their Penny Wars team-wide activity. Mrs. Robinson and Mrs. Cordemosh, winning ASD class, chose this group. Last year, the students donated to the Diabetes Foundation. Respect Week was held last week at the middle school. After children finished their Iowa testing in the morning, they were treated to a variety of activities created by the guidance department. They kicked off the week with an assembly at each grade level. Guest speakers from the U.S. Department of Justice Community Relations spoke to each grade level about what respect looks like and how it feels. And the rest of the week, they built respect polls, created respect bookmarks, and had discussions with their peers in ASD. Students are gearing up for the upcoming trip to Washington, D.C., with the final parent night being held this week. The LMS 5210 jingle is now featured on the Healthy New Hampshire website. LMS music teachers and students created the jingle to be used each week to feature their moments. Twice a week, staff and students will end a period of instruction with an activity or reflection written or spoken by students related to healthy lifestyles. It's an ordinary occurrence to see all people in the building doing jumping jacks or stretching. They're probably graduates of Mrs. Vogel. Staff members are completing the reading of their second book on literacy this year. The administration and literacy team have facilitated the discussion surrounding content area literacy. Books varied from A Curious Incident of a Dog at Night, read by SPED assistants, to Media Literacy, read by the computer staff. Congratulations to the Future Business Leaders of America, the students that Lisa was referring to, who attended the New Hampshire State Leadership Conference last week. Londonderry High School was well represented, and the following students placed in competitive exams. In accounting, Yanni Panakopoulos placed third, Sean Ryan second place, and Nathan Christopher first place. In accounting 2, Nathan Littlefield was third place. Business computer applications, Kyle Conroy placed first. Entrepreneurship, Derek Hansen first place, and business calculations, Alex Walker was second place. And 23 students of LHS history teachers, Barbara Mee and Barbara Marzik, had a very successful trip to the United Nations in New York last Friday. Mrs. Ferguson, one of the guidance counselors, also went along as a chaperone. The students had a tour of the building and then a breakout session with the same gentleman who spoke to LHS students last year. They requested him again because he was so good. He's from Hungary and works in the Conflict Resolution and Counterterrorism Division, Terrorism Division of the UN. And that's it.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome.
Did you have anything?
Yes, actually, I do. On April 3rd, Ron and I attended the South School Building Committee meeting. It's an organizational meeting Dan Beaver is going to serve as chair, Bob Lincoln is vice chair, and Dan Gunnery will run the bid tabs again. Procon had prepared for us the first set of bids. It was on groundwork, site work for the area. And it's good to know that it was a bid tab of approximately estimated in the project at about $420,000. And it came in about $80,000 short of that, so about $340,000. So we got off to a good start, at least on that bid tab, so. And we will meet again towards the end of April to approve bid tabs for steel in the building, which we understand there's longer lead times for, so.
Thank you. Steve?
Oddly enough, I did not attend any meetings, although if it counts, I screamed at the television a lot watching other meetings. Most of them were on the town side. But I do have two announcements. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of the benefit auction for the Friends of Music China trip. That occurs next Saturday, this coming Saturday on the 12th. In the Londonderry High School Cafe, and the doors open at 6 o'clock. It's just a $5 donation at the door, and they have hundreds of items that will be available for people to bid on. If they'd like to pre-register, they can go to the Friends of Music auction site, and they can pre-register for the event. That would help them to get a number on how many people are coming. Another item, this is early in the game, but definitely to mark your calendars. Warm Homes is holding a fundraiser on May 3rd from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock at the Lions Hall, and this will be a Cinco de Mayo party. Kathy is running this, and she was known in her younger days to sell tickets at the door for her brothers and sisters for fundraising at their home, but we won't go there. It's only $25 a person, and this includes food, Mexican food, and tacos, and all that other kind of stuff. It's a bring your own beverage party, so you want to make sure that you bring your sodas and other items. And they are trying to get people to dress up, but that's not required. I do understand they'll have some party favors for those that would like to do Mexican hat dances. Oh my gosh, you did write that too, but I made that part up. So those two items, this Saturday and then again on May 3rd to help the community.
Thanks. And Ron?
Other than South School, I attended a council meeting a week ago, and basically one of the things they were looking at is setting their goals, and one of the items that comes up in their goals is some sort of work with the school district to reduce costs. So that's something that we'll have to address as a board in the future. So that was one of the issues that we need to look at. Second thing is that we had a meeting of the Athletic Directors Search Committee, and we'll be proceeding over the next several weeks to interview the candidates on that committee. So that should be coming to the board sometime towards May, a candidate for that position.
All right, John, I know you're just starting.
Well,
out, but
just
have
a
you got
couple of
anything?
observations
Absolutely.
based on my
Please.
rapidly terminating life of leisure, it looks like, given the new committee assignments. But I wanted to point out that there is a PSA for the Queen's Closet, was it? Running on WLLO. I think it's at 15 minutes past it's a quarter of every hour. There's a PSA running at the top of every hour. It's an interview with Julie Lee regarding the auction for Friends of Music. And there's also a really slick program running now with Serge Bolio, featuring the CD that the jazz band cut last spring. Okay, so we're a little late getting it on the air, but it's a really sweet thing, and it's on at noon and 6, and really worth a listen. And one thing I wanted to add to Mrs. Slozak's comments, I'm going out on a limb here because I'm working from memory, but I believe there are also some homeschoolers in town who are on a very successful DI team. And I just wanted to extend congratulations to them too, because while they don't attend schools in Londonderry, they still represent our town very well.
That's a very good point, John. Thank you. And I've actually had no meetings in the past couple weeks, but it never ceases to amaze me. Every second week that we sit here, the students do something else for this community, whether it's the Queen's Closet or collecting pennies, and it's always something new every other week. So it makes me very proud of this community. So for all you folks out there, administrators and teachers, thank you very, very much for keeping that in the hearts and minds of our students. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. Enrollment report, grand total, which includes pre-K through 12, plus special ed and district study and adult ed, comes to 5424, which is down 5 from our February report of 5421.
Any questions on the enrollment? I guess not. Next. I got the discipline.
Yes. We'll start with the high school and then move to Mr. Corey. That way he can stay up to the next.
Segue right into math. Discipline and math, two of my favorite things.
They usually go hand in hand, don't they?
In my case, they most certainly did, yes.
Well, you got Andy and I tonight, which is unusual for this. First of all, this time, as you probably noticed, our report is by semester instead of generally as we used to do it by quarters. So the numbers are obviously going to look a little different, but the presentation is sort of the same. We broke it down for the high school by grade level, the number of incidents, the total number of students at each grade level, repeat offenders, or frequent flyers as they are better known, and the incidents of repeat offenders. A couple of things at the high school, some notable things to show is that one of the focus areas are getting kids to class. If they're going to come to school, one of the things we want to do is make sure they show up to class, and class cutting has dropped 22%. Not that class cutting was a great problem prior to this, but one of the biggest focuses that we've made for this year is to monitor that. I also think in the future, we'll probably do a much better job, and I would submit that probably in next year, the year after, you're going to probably see that continue to go down as our new student management system is going to go to class attendance rather than just that homeroom attendance and just sort of paper attendance during B through H period. 12% of our students were involved in disciplinary infractions. That may not be the good news, but the great news is that 88% of our students at Londonderry High School had no involvement at all first semester in any disciplinary infractions, and that is including any small detentions or any little infractions at all. As usual, as you can see, most of our infractions have increased, or most of the infractions come from the younger grade levels, the 9th and 10th grade. That is no different trend than it had been in past years. I think something to keep in mind about that is, and something that we always fight with, is alternative programming for our freshmen and sophomores. And I know that Mr. Parent and Mr. Dolphin and Mr. Bulkey and myself had been in a lot of discussions of that. We have a great adult education program. We have a great alternative program. It basically is geared towards those kids who have already started making away in their credits. Freshmen and sophomores is one area I think that we have to look at. We're doing more than we've done in the past, but that certainly is an area that we want to continue to look at for our students. Truancies have increased from 13 to 22 incidences. We put that down not because we see it as a great increase, but if you think about it, for a whole semester, 22 is a pretty small number. One of the things that I could say that actually has worked out well for us is we've changed the way that we do the attendance monitoring during the day. Prior, or at the beginning of this year, we used to do it where you have one attendance monitor, but as you know, the attendance monitor resigned at the beginning of the year, and we broke that assignment into the 4 houses. So what we are finding is that the house secretaries, the house counselors, and the house assistant principal are managing a smaller number of kids that they really know well. So I think we've been doing a better job at being able to find out what kids are not coming to school without excuses. And if you look at it, it's only 22 of them for the whole year, so that's pretty good. So we're very pleased with our numbers. Total student involvement is down compared to last semester, but the total number of incidences, and that includes minor incidences, are up a little bit. So in general, I just want to say that I'd like to give a lot of credit to the 4 assistant principals at the high school. I would tell you that at every passing time, there is at least 3 to 4 assistant principals out in the hallways at every passing time. In the morning, just to let you know, Mr. Salidas is out at the bus. Mrs. Jennings is in the plateau. Mrs. Sullivan is out at the main parking lot. Mr. Parent and I are in the front lobby. And the same procedure holds through at dismissal time. And the key to managing students at the high school is visibility and accessibility. I'm sure Mr. Corrier will tell you the same. And I want to thank those assistant principals and all the teachers that really work very hard on that. It is amazing to think that a school of 1,835 children, and you walk into that building and the atmosphere in that building, and I ask any of you, including the public, to do that, they would be amazed about the attitude and the atmosphere of the students in the building. So congratulations to them, too. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
John?
Professor Elefante, one of the things that I absolutely admire greatly about the discipline report is the goose eggs in bullying.
Yep.
I think that's just amazing, remarkable, and a wonderful accomplishment. At the same time, though, I wonder if you could define what constitutes assault and battery and threats to others.
Yeah, I think,
Because I doubt that they're really as severe
Yeah.
as the words might sound.
well, I think it's really how you categorize it, okay?
Yeah.
You have fighting, you have assault, you have bullying. The way we do it, and if you think about it, I think there were 10 fights, 10 notations of fights, which really is 5. Because usually when there's a fight, it's 2 people, right? And we've been fortunate, it's only been 2
Seen
people.
Fight Club, right?
So if you think about fighting from a whole semester, which is what, 5 months, that's 5 fights, that's 1 a month on the average.
Yeah.
And when you hear fighting, I can tell you at the high school, our kids, when they are having an issue, it's very rarely you have to go in and even break it up. It's broken up by other kids, by just verbal, by looking, or just by saying something. And I'm happy to report that even with those fighting things, we haven't had any major injuries or anything like that. They're pretty minor. Assault and battery, it really is when one kid goes after another kid. And there is no fight. It's a one-sided fight. So those things are labeled as assault and battery. One thing we are proud of, all right, having a resource officer in the building, and I know it's sometimes people think we take a hard line on it, but we make sure that any child who gets into a fight, a legitimate fight, or a legitimate assault, and they are of legal age, they are taken away by the police, by our school resource officer. Now, I know that sometimes seems harsh, but at the same point, it makes a very good impression that we do not tolerate that type of behavior in the school. And that's why those numbers are very small. So I guess the answer to your question is assault and battery is, say, if I attacked you or went after you unprovoked physically, right? A fight, obviously, is 2 kids just decide to go at it.
If I can follow up.
Sure.
I guess on the one hand, there's the concept that police refer to as fighting by mutual consent that comes under one category. And as you said, one person going after another might be assault. And I commend the swiftness and might with which you come down on that, because fighting by consent, if such a term exists, is one thing. But one person using force or intimidation or a threat against another person in a school, that doesn't work for me, and I'm all in favor of mashing it with the greatest might you can muster?
Well, first of all, using the word swiftness is true, but not for Mr. Salidas and I. We have found that we all have the walkie-talkie, and when the call goes out, Mr. Salidas and I are generally not the first ones there, unless it's right next to us. We have some very fast assistant principals who run a lot faster than we do, but our intent is to be swift and fast, and most of the time it's there before even the assistant principal and the principals get there. The teachers do a great job of it, and believe it or not, most of our students don't tolerate it either, and they're usually involved in helping at that time. And I think people have to get the impression, and I'm from New York City, as we know some of you are, fights at Londonderry High School are generally minor in nature, not with weapons, not with anything more than just a disagreement. And hopefully it will continue that way. I've seen in the past 4 years that the temperament of it has all even been going down. Kids are very happy. Kids walk around very polite, and whenever we have visitors in the building, whether it's formal visitors from the state or whether it's just parents coming in, that's the one thing they always remark about, is how nicely the students are, even in crowded hallways.
Well, again, congratulations. This is an achievement and accomplishment that I've admired throughout your entire tenure at the school. So,
Thank you.
Jim, question, I had thought we were gonna put on how many times you used the breathalyzer on this report.
We haven't. We have not used a breathalyzer at all this semester. So obviously we didn't report it. What we do is with the breathalyzer, if you remember last year, we reported that separately at the discipline time, but we have not used it at all this semester, so,
In the future,
other than testing for us.
can you put it on there so
Sure.
we don't remember it? we
Yeah,
miss
just
it?
a positive
It's
response
Okay.
would be
positive- It's a
fine.
positive statement. And I was looking at the numbers here, which I thought was real interesting, is 36% of the incidents were created by 11% of the people that created the incidents. So it's, again, it's your frequent flyers. And one of the things would be nice is how does the frequent flyers compare to the previous years? Like, we had that in the old report, just to see if we're trending down, are we making progress on reducing that number?
Yeah, and basically, we will do that as we go through the next semester, because then we'll be comparing semesters to semesters. I'm sure we can do that for the thing, we just have to go back and get it. But we've been looking, it's fairly consistent, all right? You have to remember, if most of your frequent flyers are freshmen, and that's what they are, we get a whole brand-new set of freshmen every year, and we know that Mr. Corey does a great job over at the middle school, but for some reason, when they come to the high school, they seem to think that we're in a new environment, and they test that environment. And first semester for freshmen, generally, at least my 4 years, has been the most, group that we have to worry about. I remember my first year, I was very scared to report that the freshmen, and if I was asked the question, why were the freshmen so bad, I was going to answer, that's because 4 school board members, the principal, and the business administrator's kids were all freshmen. That's not the case now, so it's just a trend for the freshmen, I guess.
If I look at this, and it looks like it's consistent over the 4 grades of, 6, 8, 5, 6.
Yep.
Repeat offenders.
Yep.
George, if I may add one
Yeah,
observation based on what...
One second,
I'm
John.
sorry.
Ben was up. Ben?
Thank you. Regarding classroom disruption,
Yep.
what is the threshold of the disruption in order to get put on this report?
When they're removed from class, obviously if a teacher, if a kid is disruptive and the teacher just calls the parent or gives a detention, that's labeled differently, that would be under teacher detention. But if a child is removed from class and goes to the administrator, the assistant principal, they record that. They'll always get a referral with that, and that's when they record it. Sometimes it won't be just removed from class, but it will be follow-up. Some teachers won't remove the child because it might be at the end of class, but they'll follow up with a referral. But it is a disciplinary referral from the teacher to the administrator.
So with respect to new teachers or second-year teachers, do you talk about a common standard across the
Oh,
board
yeah.
for application of this
And we do
rule?
that in a number of ways. First of all, during our new teacher 3 days that we have the new teachers in. The assistant principals meet with all of the new teachers and talk about the discipline code and what should be tolerated, what should not be tolerated. And then during the first semester of new teachers, we meet monthly with new teachers, and it's not always discipline, but that's one of the topics. I'm not sure if it's handled in the induction, probably not so much because you're talking elementary and high school.
Right.
So we do a lot of that with the new teachers. And we also know that we have mentors in the building with the new teachers who are quality teachers that help them out daily with any issues that they may have.
You understand why
Yep.
I'm asking the question?
Oh, yeah.
Where the concern is. Okay. Thank you.
John?
Just, I simply wanted to add an observation based on something that Ron said, that I think one of the things that's particularly remarkable about the statistics I've seen over the years here is how quickly freshmen get the message of what's allowed and what's not. As you said, they may come in testing the limits, but they seem to learn very rapidly what the limits are and start towing the line very quickly. And I think that is another thing that deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, and the frequent flyers, I mean, we talk about, what, 25 of them, think of 1,800 and something kids.
Right.
And you said, Ron, they are pretty spread across, so you're talking such a small minority, but they are time-consuming. They are certainly very much time-consuming, and some of them the board gets to see, right, as you know, and but we work very hard with those kids, and not only do we work hard with them, but we look at alternatives for them to help them be more successful so they don't become frequent flyers. We're probably more successful finding alternatives than we are in totally changing their behavior sometimes.
One second. Ron?
Okay, one other thing, I was wondering if we can get on here, which we speak about cutting class and you're cracking down on that. How many administrative failures do we have in a semester?
You're talking about attendance failures,
Exactly.
not administrative, attendance failures.
Attendance failures.
Yeah, I
That
don't
would
have
be
that
nice
down
to
here.
have on
Yeah,
here.
we can get that information.
To know, how many children are not
Yep.
making the days. Thank you.
Yeah, that's easy to find out.
And same thing for you too.
Nate?
Yeah, just a quick point, and the comment I'm gonna make, I think also applies to the middle school too. I think one of the things that we've tried to do over the years is be very proactive, and be out and visible. And the fact that the administrative staff is out in the building, the teachers are out in the hallway during passing time, that they engage the kids in conversation, that they try to identify kids that are perhaps having a bad day for whatever reason or another, I think also contributes greatly to the atmosphere and the fact that discipline numbers are as low as they are. And I think that's really a key thing. So it's not just one thing. I think it's a combination of factors, and we're very pleased with what we're seeing. I think being proactive about it is why you're seeing the results that you're seeing.
Maybe that's an area the state thinks we could cut back on.
Well, I always cautioned when I was at the middle school, when one year the board, and I don't think any of you were on the board at the time, looked at the number of kids in school, and they said, well, since the number of kids in school has dropped, why don't we cut the hours of the in-school person? And my argument is the number of the in-school incidents has dropped because of the in-school person. That's really, what you have to keep in mind. It's labor intense doing discipline at high school and also middle school level.
Thanks, Jim. Andy?
I'd like to start a little bit about the consistency. Jim and I and the assistant principals at both buildings have a lot of conversations. So I think kids are really moving forward with a clear understanding, starting in grade 6. For us, it's mainly about halfway through grade 7 until they leave for gym, and they continue that trend for about another semester, and then they kind of fall in line. So we don't have any issues with our 6th graders, but it's about now with our 7th graders. They're starting to feel very comfortable in our building. And our 8th graders are wonderful till about the 3 or 4 days after we get back from Washington. And then it seems to change for some reason. I don't know why. But that really does keep the numbers in line. I'm really happy to report our numbers again are going in the positive direction down. We had 11 out-of-school suspensions. 5 of those were earned by 2 students. Incidents overall are by 4% of the students. And the thing that always amazes me, as Jim said, That means basically that 1,252 students came to school for the whole first semester and didn't do anything wrong. You know, and one of the things, to echo again on what Jim said, people are always amazed when they come into the building. Once we're in class, the middle school is dead quiet almost. And there are 1,300 students and 200 adults, and people are always amazed that there are that many people in the building. It's a little crazy when it's changing time, but other than that, it's great. Teacher referrals are down 10% from last year. And I just want to note that, you know, NA, those 25 incidences, a lot of times when a student is sent down to us, it's something like, you know, if they're just unprepared for class and, you know, and it's been numerous days and things like that, there's really not a discipline consequence. It's more of an official warning. You know, you need to have your book, you need to have your pens and pencils, or, you know, occasionally a locker isn't working and a child will stand there and slam it 6 times, figuring that will make it better. So they get sent down and we refer them to, that's actually why we have custodians. If you put your name on the board, it'll be fixed magically by 2 o'clock. So a lot of times those are your NAs. It's more of a conference with a child to say, what are you thinking? And why are you doing that? And they're off and back into their schedule immediately. Other than that, I'll open it up for questions from the board.
Any questions? Jim answered them all, I guess.
Yeah, most of the answers are similar.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy.
Okay.
And I think we're doing computation.
With the next couple. I'm very pleased to bring again the computation results. I provided an update to the board prior to the meeting tonight. And again, we're really excited about the progress that we're making with this. I'd like to start just by looking at our present 6th graders. We have seen the natural dip between the time change. And what I mean by that is we start out the year at 30 minutes, we go down to 20, we go down to 15, and there are those natural dips. But in each of the instances, the kids have responded. And right now, we're looking at, you know, 77% of the kids are scoring at that average, which is tremendous. And I think a lot of that recognition also has to go down to the elementary schools. They have really put a focus down there as well on computation, and I think we're starting to see those results at the 6th grade. The 7th grade, there's again that natural dip, but the kids are rebounding. They just took the Iowas as well as their last test, so we're looking forward to those results. And then probably the results that I'm most proud of is if you look at the 8th grade, you know, the average score was kids getting 22 3/4 questions right. Why I'm excited about that is this is the first group of kids that have done computation tests for 3 years. So they are, you know, approaching a good number. And I think, you know, we are again working with the high school. You see a number of our 8th graders. There are 3 this year that are going over on the math team. There are a number of kids that are very involved. So I think we really have math heading in a very positive direction. I'm happy where we're heading, and we'll continue to, you know, with the computation test on a monthly basis, and we'll use our upcoming Iowa results to kind of direct us where we need to go. Are there any questions on computation?
Ben, can you explain what you mean by computation to the audience, please?
We're emphasizing the 4 basic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, with whole numbers, decimals, and fractions. As was just recently reiterated by the National Teachers of Math, that they feel if those basic skills are there, then everything else can follow. Algebra, geometry, all the upper level classes can be taught, but the kids have to have those basic core elements. And when you combine that core group of number sense with the current connected math program, which is more of the thinking and very language-based in that, and you put those 2 components together and you kind of have a hybrid, I think we're really on the right track. I know a number of schools have contacted us about what are we doing because we're starting to make those gains.
This does not include a calculator.
No child, not even the childs who have it in their IEP, because we don't count it for a grade. So
this is strictly head calculating,
correct.
adding, subtracting,
Yep.
multiplying, and dividing.
Right. You know, and again, we correct every student's test, and the big thing is, our children have always been able to do the basic skills. The problem was doing the basic skills against the clock. but that's where we go, PSATs, SATs, all that is against the clock. So we're also teaching them the skill of how to perform against that time element, which is probably the bigger element.
Thank you.
Can they can they take their shoes off?
Yeah, I'd be in trouble.
I have a question for the superintendent, and that is it possible for us to estimate the amount of time that we invest in testing our students to meet not the normal curriculum-based, accessibility, but, we do the Iowas, we do the NEAPs, we have this test, we had the unit test that we talked about in the last meeting. I'm just curious as to how much time we spend testing our students out of a normal day.
We can give you a time estimate on that, and what I would do is I would differentiate
Right.
the test from,
Yes.
from this point of view. There are a number of tests that we give that I consider to be assessments. Assessment being defined as taking a picture of what the kids have learned, and then our ability then to, in fact, revise our instruction or instructional practices, so, which I think is very appropriate to do and is built in. Some of the tests that are administered, i.e. the state test, I don't consider assessment. I consider that a test. Couldn't get a result back because there's a minimum amount of data that we get back that allows us to adjust instruction.
Well, and not for every grade, maybe the
Right.
third grade, the sixth grade, and maybe the eighth grade.
Yep.
I'm just curious if we're spending more time testing than we are teaching.
And I would submit to you that appropriate assessment is teaching,
Okay.
okay? And you never know whether or not you have taught anything until kids can demonstrate what they've learned.
That's fair. Just,
And in truth be told, in a classroom on a daily basis, there is constant assessment going on. So if Pat were to be discussing something and looking to elicit a response from kids, in a way, that's assessment. So it's just interwoven in, and it's just a variety of assessments. But we'll be happy
I've
to
just
provide-
lost track of all the different tests that we
Yeah,
give. And
that'd
it
be
appears that we're
interesting.
testing and bringing results, and just to give it some perspective
Absolutely.
from a high level,
Yes, sir.
but not for every, I don't intend it to be a tedious, time-consuming project.
We will do it for some of the selected grade levels that you've asked for, and we'll be happy to provide, Mark will be happy to provide you with that information.
The key there was brief. Brief, Mark.
Brief.
Absolutely.
Anyone
I
else?
withdraw my request.
Now you've given Nate the tool that he needs to stop from doing anything. I forgot where we were. Thanks, Andy.
I'm up
Oh,
again.
dare,
I'm up
yes.
again.
And, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sure.
You do your thing,
As
and then I
the
got a question.
Board is aware, the DARE officer for the Londonderry Town retired in December. We have used this as an opportunity to look at the DARE program and look at what we offer kids. I want to start out by thanking Captain Hart and SRO Lane, because the first thing we needed to do was figure out how we were going to finish this year. So they went out across the state, contacting everywhere and anywhere, and lucky for us, one of our own parents stepped up. Corporal John Kelly is with the Raymond Police Department. He is a trained DARE officer. So he is currently coming in on his off hours and delivering the DARE program. He is currently, as of April 7th, the beginning of this week, finished up with the monsoon team, and he will finish tomorrow with the Twister team. So those two teams will be done and have received the whole DARE program. Right below that on the handout, we have the schedule for the tsunamis and the zephyrs, so every sixth grader will get the complete DARE program this year. Part of what we're looking at is trying to build on the basis of DARE and expand the program to cover some of the areas that we also have concerns about. If you were to go to the last pages of the presentation, A group of teachers and administrators have been working to get this off the ground, and they have built a framework, and they will be further developing that, and I will be back to the board probably late May, early June with some sort of overall program. We felt there was a definite need to start looking at adding some pieces at the middle school on internet safety, bullying, things that we have always done, but we've done them in isolation. And we're trying to bring them all under this umbrella of utilizing staff and bringing them together to develop one cohesive curriculum. One of the other problems when we looked at this is there has been a sixth grade function. And to be honest with you, it isn't necessarily a sixth grade issue. It's an issue that starts to come up more as we move into seventh and eighth and ninth. So part of the program will be to expand this program to a 3-year piece so that it's not a one-shot, 8-session, done, forget it, it's over. It's that constant reminder. We'll incorporate some of that to More Than Words. We'll incorporate it as part of the whole piece of going to Washington and all the respect activities we do. And we are going to be working in health classes, in the computer teachers classes. We'll be using the community resource counselor for a number of these, present SRO, and then some community people that Officer Hart is trying to book for us. We'll be using some guest speakers. There are a number of things in the works. We are also talking about combining this into what is presently the Brown Center program, the outdoor education piece, because that's built on trust, respect, responsibility, so we see that as a natural tie-in. And we're looking at some sort of, the kids kind of have what I would call a certificate day, where they're given their certificate. So, but would like to make that into more of a culminating activity for the sixth graders, and we're looking at tying that back into our social studies curriculum. So that's all in progress. I really think in the next 4 to 6 weeks I'll be back and able to lay it out and seek your approval, or and if you have any questions now, I'll gladly take them, and we're going to continue to work through this. But we really think this is an opportunity to build off that foundation that Dare established and to start to go into other areas. I mean, the internet's probably the biggest one, and all the different components that are out there that we now have to worry about that maybe when Dare started wasn't there. I'd like to open up to questions from the board on anything.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
I see here we contracted with John Kelly. Who did that, the police department or did we?
The police department.
Thank you.
That was going to be my question as well. So. Andy, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Look forward to seeing you in a few months.
Right, I look forward to hearing about that. I
We
think
felt
that's
it was
the right
important
direction.
that Andy give you an update, because we know it was,
Yes.
during budget time, there were a number of issues raised, and we've just felt it'd be important to give you an update and let you know we were following up and make you feel comfortable about the issue.
Thank you.
Welcome. Mr. Blunt,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
You bet.
I don't see the PowerPoint here, Mark.
No PowerPoint this evening.
Okay, sorry.
For the board this evening, please find attached our 23 recommended offerings for the self-supporting summer enrichment program. Again, when we brought it to the board a couple of years ago as a proposal, its purpose is to promote student strengths in a variety of academic areas as well as other electives, and to expose students into new areas that may not typically be found in our curriculum during the regular school year. We're offering the programs starting on July 7th, shortly after July 4th holiday, running into the first week of August, ending August 8th. We'll be holding the enrichments. Primarily our elementary offerings will be held at North School. And then we also have middle school and high school scheduled as well. As you can see in the memo I provided you, a variety of our teachers from most all of our schools, from Moose Hill to the high school, submitted proposals for enrichments this summer. Prices for the enrichments will range from $39 for camp kindergarten to our most expensive one, which is the biotechnology course, by Patty Lawson at the high school at $130. Promotion, the best way to promote our enrichments, at least from the experience from teachers last year, has been by the teachers. They do the best job in marketing, being entrepreneurs and marketing their enrichment programs. We'll also have up the flyer and the registration on the district website. We'll be sending out a news release, a press release attached to your packet this evening to the local media. We'll have a little posting up on Leo 21, being PTA newsletters, and the brochures will be out at the town hall as well as the Leach Library. Deadline for registration is June 6th, 2009, and I want to thank Holly Capobianco for putting together the brochure that you have this evening in your packet. Are there any questions?
If my wife is watching, you were right. But specifically, how does this interact or work vis-a-vis the computer camp programs that have been going on for a few years now?
These, this
I mean,
was-
I don't think I see them in this flyer. Did I miss them?
The computer camp was an earlier piece and is not part of our summer enrichments, but I can have Sue speak on that.
Sort of wonder if we should get entrance music for each administrator.
Pomp and circumstance, or Here Comes the Queen would be good for Sue.
The computer camp
Now that she's
program,
in the hall.
as Mark has indicated, has been in existence for some time and is a complementary sort of program to the summer enrichment program. And in fact, the press release that is in your packet is a joint press release.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So that both programs will be simultaneously announced. Although we have a slightly different timeline than the registration that the enrichment program will have. They're complementary, and parents will be notified in the same manner about them and given, we will have a registration brochure that will be distributed similarly to the enrichment program.
Okay.
Ron?
Thank you.
Mark, we had spoken previously. I had thought we were going to put something on here if the parents wanted a choice, like if their first choice did not have enough people and they had a second choice, that you can reach the number, the critical mass by first or second choice. Here, they put down one thing, and if that program isn't on there, they're gone, because they wouldn't put down two. A first choice and a second choice.
Yes, you did speak to me on that, Ron. These programs, a parent may choose to, since they operate at various times during the summer, a parent could register their child for more than one enrichment and be able to participate in more than one if they have the means to do so, since these are self-supporting.
But that's not what I guess that's not what I'm saying, Mark. I understand that I can put my child in several programs. However, I may choose to put my child in a single program, and I pick, let's say, no strings attached is my first one, and there's not the minimum 10.
Right.
So, and my second program, which I'm not going to pay for, if I'm only going to put one program down, would be the Reader's Theater. If I have, if I say, okay, this is my first choice and this is my second choice, I may have a group of people with the first choices and the second choices of Reader's Theater to get to the number 10, as opposed to where you are right now, where I would put one down. I wouldn't want my son to take both of them. So I'm trying to increase the enrollments, but by saying, okay, you got a first choice and a second choice. If you want to take that, you may not want to take that option, but at least if your second choice is there.
If you went with, and I'm trying to understand what you're saying. If a parent put down a first and a second choice, and there are if one of the choices is this figure, you know, the price for the program as well as the other, does that mean they submit a check for both of the choices? We have to, in other words, we have to, in order to have these be self-funding, we have to have minimum number or a target goal of those minimum numbers.
Right.
And I'm
I
not
guess what
sure
I'm
I
saying is
understand
that
you.
last year you got virtually nothing done here. There was very few programs offered out of the total.
Right, we had, yeah, right.
Right, so what I'm
Exactly.
saying is that if the parents could put down a one or a two choice, they put down one choice, and most of them probably came in, 80% came in with one choice. You didn't have it because they were all over the world.
Okay.
But I as a parent say, I think it's beneficial for my child to participate in a program over the summer. If you're not offering choice A from column A, I may be able to get column B, and that's okay with me. I'm not saying I'm taking both choices, I'm just taking one of the two choices.
In other words, you're suggesting a backup choice. and
Exactly.
Maybe
Backup
the
choice.
parent would send in the check for the highest amount applicable and get a refund.
That would work too, and that's how you set it up.
It's not going to be any more accounting, I don't think, especially if you're collecting the money up front. But
Right.
what you're doing is saying, if you don't get 10
Right.
in Class A, I'd like my son or daughter to go to Class B, because
Yep.
maybe you can get to 12 that
Got
way.
you, Ron.
And it may also give you another opportunity where if you get 6 in A, 8 in B, 2 of those A's may go over to B, so you can at least have one of the two classes.
Right. So I think it's a very worthwhile program.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to,
Or optimistically, if you get 20 people looking for 15 seats.
right, with any luck. Any other questions, Steve?
You explain why there are no offerings for South School?
The reason why we have offerings not held at South School or Matthew Thornton for the summer enrichment, South School due to the construction project, Matthew Thornton, the rec program, as well as the elementary summer program are both housed there.
And students from South School and Matthew Thornton can go to,
Any place.
They can go to,
These are district-wide
these are
programs?
district-wide
Yes.
programs.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Blunt? Thanks, Mark.
You bet. Thank you.
And we shall move to deliberation.
Yes.
You've got overnight,
Yes,
trips?
there are 2 overnight trips in your packet. One is for the Penn Relays, and the second is for the Math League competition at Penn State University.
Front page.
do you need a,
Oh, okay. Just need a yes.
Ms. Delafonte?
Nope, I just hearing in case you have
Okay,
any questions.
any questions? And
Can I just say one thing about the math team, which
Yes,
probably,
please.
I know you got this, but I just want to, Mike Wenger handed me this on his way out, right? Just to put things in perspective, and it'll take 1 minute. right? Londonderry team was first place. We had 377 points. That was 60 points higher than we did last year, which we also finished first place. The second place team was 41 points behind us. To give you a perspective, there were 53 schools that participated. We came in first in the state. That's 636 kids. Out of 636 kids, 9 of them had perfect scores, and Londonderry had 2 of them. So one of the concerns that was brought up by a school board member many years ago was, are we challenging our top kids?
Who was that?
I can't remember his
Okay.
name. But I think this goes to show that our top kids not only are being challenged, but they are shining among the other top kids in the state, because that's what this math contest is. That said, I hope you approve their field trip for the national.
What a lead-in.
John? You all right over there?
Somebody get the defibrillator.
No, just get it on MP3.
That would be
Okay, just a point of process, being the new guy on the board here. How do these field trips typically come up? Are they identified by interested faculty and staff, and then brought to the board for permission? Do people make arrangements before they come to the board, or people signing contracts for anything? Just, what's the process?
Most of the ones that the ones that come to the board are overnight field trips. Many of them you see, in a sense, have been annual things, like the pen relays and so on. A number of them, as far as what you'll also see, for instance, with the math league, will come about as a result of competition that has occurred, so we bring it to the board. Others come about because of specific programmatical types of things as they come out. One of the things that the board has asked is that if it's a brand-new field trip, that we should have a discussion with the board ahead of time before commitments are made. So, for instance, if next year, Teacher X decided that they would like to have their kids go on an overnight field trip to sample geological formations in the Shawangunk Mountains of New York State, and it's a real place, the Shawangunks, that we would get that information ahead of time. We would bring it to in essence, the school board, say, here's what we like, not bring it to the board 2 weeks before the trip, after everything has been done and whether or not there's been fundraising. Some of these items will come more rapidly to the board, because there's no way we would know whether or not the kids were going to qualify for the Penn State math thing. So it's just that kind of thing. So, and a number of field trips really that we do on an annual basis. I'll give you an example. One that we've done every fall now for the last couple of years is the Camp Dakota trip. Right, the board's aware of it. The kids that are in our Block Humanities program go on a regular basis, so people know. So if it's a brand new overnight trip, what we've been asked to do is bring it ahead of time before people make commitments. So that's really what it is. And so it's tied into curriculum programs, or in some cases, it's our athletic teams. So preseason, they're gonna go, like the girls softball, went down to Florida to play, to warm up and play.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Nate. And that's relatively new, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep,
Okay.
All right.
There's also a
Need a
policy
motion?
on that.
No, before you do.
Nope.
yes.
I just haven't dug
Yeah,
that one up
we
yet.
just, we muddled our way through it last year finally.
Yes.
Steve?
Before you do the motion, just on the math trip, it talks about rented vans, but they're talking about 20 to 30 people, not to micromanage, but, they might want to talk to Friends of Music to see what they do on coaches. I mean, that number's getting up there. I do have, and I've said this before, a concern about overloaded 12-passenger vans. And on the other form, it also indicates they're looking at the same type of van, and there are 12 people. I just think we need to be careful in that area.
Coaches are very, very expensive for overnights. Vans are a lot cheaper. We don't send our school vans.
Right.
We love our school vans, but we keep them local. If we're doing a trip like this, we rent not brand new, but good quality vans. We don't overload them, obviously. We'll rent 3 vans if we need it. We'll rent 2 vans if we need it. We don't know the exact number of kids yet, but coaches, we've looked into it. Overnight trips for coaches are unbelievably expensive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yes, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the 2 field trips presented to us this evening.
Second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have fun, kids.
All those in favor, cough once.
There you go. Just very quickly, I published a new liaison list, and obviously I should have quality checked it, because Dan should not be on the capital improvement planning, so if there's anybody that would like to take the second spot on that, just let me know.
Sure, I'll go.
Thanks, Ben. And Ben, I kind of took the liberty of putting you on the curriculum council, so I thought you might like that. I wasn't able to get hold of you, but you and I had spoken about it earlier this evening, so thanks. Any changes that you may have, let me know.
Let's hold those curriculum meetings down.
Mark? got your instructions.
Yeah, I'd argue
Let's discuss that one, since it's our primary reason for being up here. Mr. Barker?
George,
Let's just not meet every day.
Yep, go ahead,
high
John.
school PTSA groups,
Yes.
what is encompassed under groups?
You know what, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Because I was wondering if that, like, included Friends of Music and organizations like that.
That I don't know, John. That's
Answer
just
that is
been
yes.
there. Okay, so the answer is yes.
And you've got me on
Yes,
town
that
council.
historian.
Ooh, good for you.
I'd rather be poked with hot sticks.
You should review this in detail.
And if you ever need a
The
backup.
town council, I think, is actually, town council has moved us off of the, I think it may have done that with all the liaisons. Let me check, so it may not be something that we expect somebody to go to.
Did you say
Is it-
poked with hot sticks? Just wanted to make sure that was on the air.
All right.
Okay, I would argue.
We'll adjust it.
I would argue the chair should be doing the school board association meeting, which is always on the sunniest Saturday in the fall. However, I'm getting pretty used to torturing those people, so I'll stick with that.
Thank you.
I think you were enjoying the torture.
I am. Kind of like, no, that's all right.
Never mind, don't go there.
Yeah, we've already been there.
Was there a change?
So, no, we're gonna leave the town council out for the moment until we can fill it in. John?
Just wanted to say if Ben ever needs a backup with the high school PTSA and groups and stuff like that, give a shout.
Good. Well, I'll add you
Yeah.
to that list.
Okay.
So, thanks, Ben, and we will make the appropriate changes, try to avoid hot sticks where we can. You guys are too funny. All right. Acceptable use of staff and acceptable use of student policies. So, IIAE.
This includes like renting kids out to rake lawns and stuff.
Susan, would you like to?
Only for fundraisers.
Year of the squirrel.
Susan can respond to any questions you have in your packet. Updated and revised acceptable use policies for staff and acceptable use policies for students.
Thank you for
You're
pointing that
welcome.
out, Mr. Greenberg.
You're welcome.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
It's all you.
These policies relate to the use of technology resources, both content and as well as the means with which to access the content. And every several years, we are advised to review the policies to make sure they're in compliance with the way the landscape is changing as regards to how we are accessing and using information and ideas. So these policies have had the input of the various constituencies in the district, including, the library media staff, the IT staff. We've discussed them with our technology committee. The administrative council has looked at them. And in addition, school district council has vetted the language to make sure that we're compliant with current federal, state regulation. We have primarily tried to get, believe it or not, some archaic language like the use of the term electronic highway out of the policy, just to freshen it up a bit, but to also account for the use of some Web 2.0 technologies as we begin to investigate and consider how we can use them with an educational purpose in mind and being sanctioned by the district, so that we would use those sorts of items only after they had again been through a process by which we had determined they had a purpose. We also did some alignment between the staff and student policies to make sure that things were as clear on both sides. And one of the major additions on the staff side of the policy is at the top of page 3. I noticed that the board can see the sections that we've deleted in your policy, but I don't think the highlighting that we used came through on some of the additions. So I'd like to point out, especially at the top of page 3, on the staff policy, there's a whole new paragraph that just makes it clearer to staff members that in terms of putting out any information, especially on the district website or on their web pages regarding students, has to be done so under real strict circumstances, and that written permission from students to post their work, which is their intellectual property, or their parents and guardians may be required. So those are, I think, the major differences. We did also include information in this policy that refers to other board policies which you have adopted that have some relationship regarding technology. Specifically on page 6, we remind the staff that the board policy EDDA, which is in regard to data and email retention schedules and internet logs, is a kind of companion to this kind of policy. So those, I think, are the major changes. Any questions?
Okay, yep.
One
John?
question, Professor Ballard, regarding the paragraph that you pointed out, top of 3. How does that pertain to likely 021 as well?
You meaning the posting of?
Yeah, for example, images of kids' art at a
which is a
reflection
great-
show or something.
That's a public display
Oh,
of
okay.
that artwork, which would be different.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Sue? All right, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for policy IIAE for the staff.
Second.
All those in favor of moving to the second reading? IIAE.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, Mary.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept the first reading of IIAE for students.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, Mary.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go into normal.
Before you do that, I just want to, I meant to do this earlier, and I'll take, is there anybody in the public that has anything that want to bring to the board? Mr. Clark? Come on down. You take your time, sir.
After the vibrant and lengthy discussion we had last meeting about my suggestion to move it down to 300,
The deliberative session quota?
I decided to think a little bit, and although the meeting of the Taxpayers Association isn't until the 28th of April, therefore I'm only speaking for myself as of now, I did suggest to the council yesterday that, assuming that the Taxpayers Association come to a single thought on the matter, either down to 300, up to 600, status quo, or what they want. But I think I suggested that it might be a good topic for an agenda item at the meeting of the two boards. And I just wanted to let you know that I can't speak for anyone but myself until the 28th of April, but it occurred to me that that might be, if the group came at that time, they might change your mind, not change your mind, or whatever.
Any questions for, I'm sorry.
I have a question. Are you asking, so are you asking as Reed Page Clark, or are you asking as a representative of the Taxpayers Association?
I just said I can't speak for them until April 28th. I am asking as Reed Page Clark to, what I want to do is to get more people involved. Some Taxpayers Association members may want to lower it to 300. Some may not. I have no idea. I can't do anything until I find out. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that you're aware that that's what I'm trying to do.
I think I'm going to help you with membership on the Taxpayers Association. I'm speaking loud enough?
You're going to help me with?
Membership on the Taxpayers Association.
Okay.
Because you've come to the board a couple of times talking about the Taxpayers Association.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my opinion. I did enjoy speaking to them about the process of the school deliberative session.
Yeah.
There were about 12 to 14 members in the library when George and I went to speak to them.
That's right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ron. Ron went with me to speak to them.
George was there as a member.
However, frankly, based on what I've read in the press, the present Taxpayers Association is nothing more than a political action committee, a special interest group, and frankly, in my personal opinion, dysfunctional. And if they would like to speak to me about that, they can find my home phone number on the londonderry.org website.
Oh, they know your phone number. I am amazed at that comment, but I don't think I'm dysfunctional, and I don't think that
I didn't.
the board, no, I don't think the board.
And I certainly.
I don't think that the people are. What they are is of different opinions. One wants to status quo, and others want more, and others want less. That's it.
Okay. John?
Pursuant to what Mr. Clark suggested initially regarding a joint meeting, again, I'm the new guy, and with all respect and deference to the members of the town council, I'm not entirely clear on why a change in school governance policy would be fodder for the town council as an organization. I'd certainly be delighted to hear from them as individual members, just as I'm sure that they welcome us as individual citizens to comment on town ordinances and town procedures. But in terms of a joint meeting that discusses something that is specifically relevant to the operation of one board or one, for lack of a better word, government or another, I'm not sure I understand the reason why we need to do that.
I don't see the reason. However, I think one of the things that Mr. Clark is pointing out is that, he's in favor of trying to get more people involved. And I think that's what you're referring to at a joint meeting, as opposed to the reduction of the quorum at our deliberative session, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Okay, so he's not talking about discussing the reduction of the deliberative session at a joint session, but rather increasing political involvement,
I'm
if
sorry,
you
did
will.
I misunderstand you that badly?
You did.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
But, everybody does not apologize, everybody misunderstands. No, but, I'm trying to increase
Right.
it. But
Understood.
If the Taxpayers Association
Well,
group
read anybody's.
can't make a consensus, then
Well, that's.
it's done, but after April 28th, I'll know.
No, and that's fine, and, that's an independent organization who's certainly got a right to speak or send a representative to speak for them. to this forum. I mean, we're not going to stop anybody from speaking, so.
Right. Okay.
Is there anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, sir, as always.
Can I make a motion?
Is there any other public comment? Yes, you can.
Make a motion, we move to non-public session under RSA 91:A:3, Section 2, A through F.
Second. And I'll take a roll call. I, George Herman.
I, Ron Campo.
I, Steve Young.
And I, John Robinson.
Ronnie did.
I did.
I know where we can get the money for state funding, for education funding.
You're on the air in here.
It's okay. Why don't we borrow it from China like everybody else does?
Well, that seems to be the popular. Maybe.
How you doing there, Mr. Balky?
To borrow money for the school.
Absolutely, there you go.
Hi, guys.
Good for the Yeah, I think it just dawned on you a bit later. No, that's not what did. Okay.
In other words, I could get 40 seconds of fun. If you take this away,
Yeah.
44 kids, this
Right, that was exactly what I was asking.
Exactly. I understood that. It's just. You don't get food noise, which is exactly what this whole thing
Intro to production and broadcast journalism.
Yes, go ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you do me a favor? You see her around? Not so much.
Not so much.
He's a graduate
Cool.
From last year,
from there.
Cool. I'll look. I'm out there again on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you doing there on Thursdays? What are you doing there on Thursdays? You teaching another class?
That's the intro to production class.
Oh, I thought you only had the one Monday.
Share my thanks with Mr. Parker for not sharing the sentiment of those mistakes regarding the budget committee assignment.
Sorry, I misheard you completely.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
He must need something. He misses you.
No, I think my hands are better.
Do you use it at the post office? Rate increase May 12th. Maybe I'll stay on site. You want to do a story on, get in touch with our PR guy and give his some fodder. They're actually going to give flexibility. They're, for the first time in 200 years, going to give some volume discounting. So all the business we could never get because somebody, let's take an argument, hypothetically, you know, we had a 200,000 packages here. The HL, what kind of cut we give? 10%. FedEx, what do you give? 12%. Post office, oh, sorry, you gotta pay 460, just like, it's universal service, just like the guy that walks up to the counter with one, if you're gonna give me 200,000, you pay the same. Bad deal, I'm not gonna give you my business, but we will,